Thank you for joining us for Getting the Most Out of the Fund Monitors Database webinar. Just a little bit of housekeeping first. My name is Chris Goslin. This webinar will run for 30 to possibly 45 minutes, depending on how we go and any Q&As that come up. So just on that, if you do want to ask a question, use the Q&A box on your screen and raise your hand, and that will be compared by or controlled by Damon, so we don't have too many of the same questions or interruptions. Moving right along, we have a whole range of different user types potentially here today, whether it be fund managers, advisors, or investors. But the essence of fund monitors is that it can be used by all those user types to compare and track over 700 managed funds. As you probably know, you need to register before you can get access, and I'm about to log in. But there is, excuse me, a series of free options. So just let me log in. There's a 45-day premium trial if you want to try it. No credit card required. You can sign up, no obligation. Try it out for 45 days. There's also a forever free version. And when you sign up to register or for your trial, there'll be a range of information about pricing, etc. You can do it monthly or annually, or as I say, there's a forever free version. The forever free version allows you to see a profile, a fact sheet of all funds on the database, but it's limited. The business process we use is what we call beneficiary pays. You can get a certain amount of value at no cost. If you want greater value, then there's a payment involved, beneficiary pays. So moving right along, let's have a look at the home page. The home page is divided into 3 columns effectively. Peer group analysis, where you can look for either single funds or you can look for peer groups. We divide the funds into 15 different peer groups so that it's easier for investors and advisors to compare apples with apples. We'll look at that in more detail in a moment. We have a news section. Each day we put up a performance report or an insights article, videos, webinars. So there's always something that's new and different on the website each day. If you wanted to look at one of these news items, you'll see it's a performance report from this particular manager. If I close that, I can see the fact sheet of the individual manager. We're going to come to that later, so I'll cover the detail of how those fact sheets and profiles are organised. Finally, on the right-hand side, there are 2 things. There's a featured fund. Those featured funds scroll through a series of featured funds. And just for clarity, featured funds pay to be put in that position. There's no favoritism elsewhere. There's no advertising elsewhere, but a manager can pay to be featured on the front page. The information and the way they're displayed is always the same. It's the same format all the way through. There's also a link here to Olivia, which is the AFM Olivia online application system, where there are a whole range of funds where you can apply directly online, avoid the paper and the hassle of filling in a paper-based application form. And you can have a look at that separately. I won't go into the detail of that at the moment. Coming back to the home page, let's look at the peer group analysis. So, and a little bit about the navigation on the site. Wherever there's an orange button, that means it takes you somewhere else or acts and does something. So whether it's read more videos and webinars, view the fact sheet, apply for a fund, or view all peer groups, the orange button will take you to the next page. And one of the issues and benefits, but a challenge for us at Fund Monitors, is we have a huge amount of information, not only on over 700 funds, but the depth of information and the functionality on those funds is considerable. So we organize the data and the information in a series of pages and hopefully in a logical sequence to enable the user to process their way through the information. If I wanted to look at, say, a group, I can see what the benchmark is. So for this equity long large cap Australia, it's the ASX 200 total return. And you can compare the performance of the average of that peer group and the benchmark. You can organize this information using these little chevrons here. So you can organize top to bottom or bottom to top. And you can drill down to see all the recipient funds within the peer group by clicking on the peer group name. When you get to this format, and you'll see we use this format in repeated ways in fund selectors and watch lists, you can see, again, a range of information. All the funds listed in this particular peer group, which I think is 85 different funds. It shows the most recent performance months, but also 12, 24, 36, 35, 7-year performance. And again, if you use these chevrons, you can sort the table as you want to. The other tabs we have here on this page to make it easy to navigate is you can look at historical performance and you can go back through the years. So you can take this back as far as you want. You can look at risk functions, so standard deviation, Sharpe ratios, Sortino ratios, etc. Again, over a series of periods of 3, 5, or 7 years. We have a function called quintiles, so we divide funds into within their peer group by 20% bands. So top quintile, this one here, for instance, this shows you that over 1 year, this particular fund is in the top quintile, top 20% for total return, less so for volatility, but scores very well on Sharpe, Sortino, downside deviation. And you can see that it's consistently that way over 3 years as well. You'll see another fund which is very consistent. So there's a good way of being able to see the consistency and the performance compared with its peers that way. This tab on strategy details, as the name would suggest, will show you the strategy, geographic mandate, when the fund was started, style, market cap, whether it's discretionary or quantitative. You can see the key terms, minimum investment amount, etc. You can see ratings from a range of ratings houses. So in one place, you can see, if you're an advisor, you can see either R rating, Lonsec, Morningstar, SQM, or Zenith. And you can also see availability, what platform availability the fund may be on. Obviously, the performance is the one that most people look at the most. And you will see here that you can add a fund to your watch list. We'll look at watch lists in a moment. So you can both add and remove funds to your watch list. If you want to actually look at the fund itself, and you want to look at, say, a specific fund, I'm just looking for something here. You can scroll through these and you can search for a specific fund and look at what we call the profile. Again, the profile is divided into multiple tabs because there's just too much information to put it all on one tab. This fact sheet is the fact sheet that is available on every fund on a forever free basis for registered users. And what might be of use to advisors is that this can be printed and put into a statement of advice if you wanted it to. So it covers the manager summary, strategy summary, key terms, key statistics, cumulative returns, drawdowns, and the quintile ranking. But you can then, if you're a subscriber, go to a performance summary, which will give you a summary updated every month with details of the performance against the index and the peer group, cumulative returns again and drawdowns, a performance analysis, which gives you more information again, including monthly performance since inception, and a series of charts showing the fund against the index that we put it against, in this case, the ASX 200 total return, and also the peer group. So you can get an idea of the relative performance of every fund on the database. Finally, there's a full fund profile. So with each of these tabs, we're searching for more and more information. And this is divided again into multiple tabs. So the fund and manager details, investment details, minimum investment amount, etc., redemption frequency, performance analysis and risk, what we call advanced analytics. So if you're really into analysing fund performance and fund risk, this will show you the performance of the fund since inception over 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years, and since inception against the index. And in this case, the index is the ASX 200. You can also see this information for monthly returns, performance in positive markets, performance in negative markets. So there's a huge amount of information there. You can switch between calendar year performance and financial year performance. So you choose how you want to look at the information. This information is available in graph format as well, if you prefer it visually rather than numerically. Again, you can see for an individual fund, its quintiles, research and availability, news and insights. So each month we'll upload a performance report from the manager so that can be viewed if you want to see it. Along the right-hand side of here, you've got a range of buttons. You can contact the manager, you can view the manager report, you can see the fund news, you can add to the watch list, and you can apply online. So you can do that directly from the AFM database. So that's the profile. The profile gives you, we think and hope, as much information as you would possibly want about every fund on the database. There are some other functionality that is useful if you're searching for a fund. So let's look beyond that and look at some of the functionality. We've seen peer groups, but there's a fund selector. So you can search for an individual fund, or you can search for a group of funds. You can select as the name suggests. So if I'm looking particularly for small cap funds and I'm looking for equities, I can filter this to say what kind of strategy I'm looking for. And I can also filter by market cap, I can filter by style, and I can filter by geography. So if I only wanted to see Australia and New Zealand, then I would untick some of these other ones. And I can look at domicile. There's some advanced filter options, and I can click on Find Funds. That gives me the list of funds. In this case, I only look for equity long mid-cap. But if I wanted to change the criteria, come up here and say, well, I'd actually like to look at some equity alternative as well, then I can create a list that includes equity long plus equity alternative. And then I can filter and sort these to my heart's content. There's obviously a lot more funds there. Again, I can add these to my watch list, and I can look at all these funds in the same way as I did. Other features on this, let's look at the watch list. Watch list, literally, for obvious reasons, is these are funds that I particularly want to look at. I want to follow on a regular basis. I can add them, include them, but it's the same format, the same layout, looking through those. Other tools and analytics, I can look at custom statistics. So the joy of custom statistics is if you want to look at specific information that is relevant to you and you don't want all the fields that we've included, then you can go through custom statistics. You use the selector again to create your universe or select your funds. And if I find those funds, I can add or include them out of the list. I've got quite a long list here. So it's probably smart maybe not to have as many in this. Might take a while to sort all these, but let's see what happens. I can add additional funds, select benchmarks if I want to. I can select portfolios. We'll come to portfolios in a moment, and peer groups. If I give it a report name, and a description, I can ask for recent performance, general performance. I can include correlation data, and I can select the fields that I particularly want to see. So I might say, well, I'm actually only looking for the best month, the annualized return, 1, 3, and say 5 years. And I can select dates. So you're in control of what information you see. So if I want to go back and go to the current date, and I save and run the report. Now, as I said, it can, this is dragging a lot of information out, so it can take a bit of time. Of course, that made me look stupid because it said no funds. I've made a mistake somewhere. Let me go back. My apologies. This is never smart in the middle of a demonstration. Damon, can you tell me what I've forgotten to do? No, probably not.
Just go back one on that, Chris. Anyway, why don't we move on to portfolios, and I'll set one up for you.
Okay, let me move to portfolios. So what you can also do is create a portfolio. I can select specific funds in my portfolio. So if I start typing, it will find the fund. and I might want, I'll just put 4 or 5 funds in here. So I've selected my funds. I've got to select a start date. I've actually want to do this. And I can copy those. The problem here is this fund started later, so I'll move this to a more recent start date. I can then choose the amount I want to invest. And I can copy that, or I can put in individual amounts. I'll give it a name. And I can save the portfolio. So what this has done is put the 4 funds together into a portfolio. It has shown what the original investment was, the current NAV, and the annualized return for each of the funds. I can edit this, so I can add a fund if I want to. And I can reweight the funds, so I can add or reduce the investment amount. But I can also look at the portfolio performance as a whole, or I can look at the individual fund performance. I can look at the key risk terms of each of the funds over varying periods. I can look at the correlation of the various funds. Portfolio analytics, what we're doing is we're using exactly the same functionality across different applications, in this case, portfolios. There are a couple of other things you can do with this. You can share the portfolio. If you're an advisor, you can send this portfolio to your clients and they will be able to log in and see it. They'll only be able to see this portfolio. And there's a system for doing that where you enter their email address and a code word for them. But portfolios is one of the more powerful functions of the Fund Monitors database. Again, advanced analytics, graphs, exposure. So it will give you the exposure and graphs of strategy, distribution, redemption, management fees, performance fees, etc. The final thing you might want to look at is what we call the portfolio optimizer. Putting portfolios together tends to rely on a preference or knowledge of the individual funds. But what you can do is create an optimized portfolio. And what an optimized portfolio will do is select funds that together provide you the best return for the lowest possible risk. So what I've done here again is use the selector to create a universe. This will find the funds that meet the requirements. Now, there's a lot of funds in this list, so I'm not going to, what I'll do is unselect those and just I'll select, actually, well, no, let's see how we go. I'll select those funds. I can select additional funds and I can select mandatory funds. And I can enter a date to compute the portfolio up to. So will I actually want to compute this portfolio up to February 2023. I want to use 5 years data. I want to exclude funds without 5 years of data, and I want to put 10 funds in the portfolio. Now, again, this may take quite a bit of time. We've got to go through a lot of information. So this is calculating and creating a model portfolio optimized to get the best performance for the lowest possible risk. Damon, this can take some, I hope it won't take 10 minutes. No, it hasn't taken as long as I thought.
There we go.
How it's organised, this is created 5 portfolios. Each of these portfolios are created out of these funds, which are represented by the pink dots. And the portfolio shows the performance and the standard deviation for the 5 sample portfolios. Each one has a higher risk limit, and each one produces a higher performance. And you can see the portfolio returns for the risk levels. So lowest risk through to highest risk. And you can see the individual funds within each of these 5 portfolios and the performance thereof. You can remove funds or you can add funds. Or if we decide that risk 4 is acceptable to us with return of nearly 11%, standard deviation of 7.55, then and a Sharpe of 1.33, I can say, right, let's build this portfolio. Give it a name. And you're then using or seeing the portfolio function again, which is portfolio chosen by the system to produce the best performance for the lowest possible risk. All the usual functions there where you can reweight funds, you can add a fund and remove a fund if you want to. One of the things about this is that when you look at the fund breakdown, you generally find that the correlation of these funds, as you'd expect, is very low. In an ideal world, you want funds that have low correlation. No point investing in 5 funds, all of which have the same returns. So the correlation table is very useful. It's heat mapped so that you can see where there's low correlation or high correlation. And you also get correlation of each of the funds against the ASX 200, the S&P 500, the All Country World Index, and the Asia Pacific Index. So obviously this is looking at historical information and historical performance, but it is a very useful way of showing the strength of diversification and the strength of putting different funds, different return profiles together. Damon, we're coming up to our 30-minute limit. Is there anything that I've forgotten, missed out?
No, we've just had a couple of questions which I've answered online. I hope everyone got a chance to see those. James asked a question just regarding the share portfolio functionality and the ability to add someone in. But we might take that one offline just because I think that actually may be a problem in James's log on. So other than that, no, we've looked through most things, although you can show it there.
Okay. So yeah, what happens with the share portfolio, I won't actually do it, but you put in the first and last name of the person you want to share it to, you provide their email address, you put their mobile phone number in, which importantly won't be shown to the recipient, and you send a link. What will happen when I do this is it will send an email to the recipient, and it will say, dear whoever it may be, dear James, I've created a portfolio for you, follow this link, but the investor or the recipient will need to put in their mobile phone number. So there's an element of two-factor authentication and security. Unless they know the phone number, because it's not shown to them in the email, they won't be able to access this portfolio. If James had a problem with that, we can certainly cover it with him offline afterwards.
Yep. Chris, if you could just also go to the portfolio analytics graphs that you've got there on that page.
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Just scroll through on those for me. There was just just go back to the drawdown for me. There was just a question on the breadth of the drawdown. I think this graph actually shows exactly what drawdown was. You can see in March 2020, the blue line being the fund that Chris has made with the portfolio here had a maximum drawdown of 20%, but that drawdown essentially finished in it looks like April or May, or August, I should say, whereas the depth of the drawdown for the market at that time was 26%, and it took quite a few more months for it to get back to the starting. So for the person that noted that question, hopefully that's put in. Chris, there's just a question on the cost of subscriptions.
Yes, there are a variety of subscription costs. I'm not sure I can actually get to the subscription page.
You just go into About Us, Chris, and
there
should be on a compare plans.
So there is a forever free subscription. You will get limited functionality, so I don't think you get a watch list and you can't get portfolios, but you can see at no cost all 725 fact sheets. There's a light subscription, which is $348 a year, and you can see the functionality there. So you only get one portfolio with 10 funds in it. Or for a premium subscription, $1,348 or $120 a month, really designed for advisors and family offices. You can get 20 portfolios, each with 20 funds, full access to the various functionality. You can, on a monthly basis, you can cancel your subscription at any stage. It's all automatically done online. And as I said, you can sign up for a 45-day free trial without credit card and without any obligation, should you wish to do so. Any other questions on that, Damon?
No, that seems to be it, Chris, given it's 4:34. I think that's just about everything.
As always, if anyone would like to contact us directly and ask any questions, please do so. If anyone wants to have a fund added to the database, please let us know. So you can just use the Contact Us form to say, can you please add this fund or that fund? We will do whatever we can. We can't force funds to be part of fundmonitors.com, but there's no cost for them to add their fund. So there should be no barrier, barring their performance, to being included on the website.
Chris, while I've got you there, if you're just happy to log out, would you be able to just show everybody?
You've gone silent. What do you want me to show?
Where someone would go to take advantage of the 45-day free trial.
Sure. So just click on that button. I'll just go back there and show you. Just take the 45-day free trial. You need to register, provide your details, your type of user, whether you're an advisor, fund manager, investor, or industry. Put in your nominated password, tick the I agree box, and submit. So no credit card required and no obligation on that. The only catch on that is that you can only get a 45-day free trial once. You can't extend that out. So by all means, try it. We thoroughly encourage you to try it, and hopefully you'll continue onwards at the end of your free trial.
Okay, that looks like all of the questions, Chris.
Thank you, Damon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please don't hesitate to email or phone, ask us any specific questions. Look forward to hearing from you.